Hi, welcome to Wellbeing Wednesday. This week our focus will be on target setting. Like a lot of other target setting methods, P.O.S.E.E target setting is named after an acronym of the steps that we go through as we set our targets. This is very NLP based and uses a lot of the ideas that we've discussed over the past couple of weeks. So having watched all three of the first Wellbeing Wednesday sessions will be advantageous if you're wanting to get the most out of this tutorial. So P.O.S.E.E target setting involves 6 steps. The word P.O.S.E.E is entirely made up for the purpose of this acronym and is spelled P.O.S.S.E.E. The P stands for positive, the O stands for ownership, the S's stand for specific and size, and the E's stand for evidence and ecology or environment. Okay, so we'll have a brief discussion of those 6 steps, and then we'll work through an example which will be about my current target, my current area for development, which is becoming a little bit more comfortable with producing video tutorials, something I've never done before this series. So we discussed in week 1 don't think about giraffes, and how if we do think about giraffes, if we say don't think about giraffes, we do think about giraffes. So this is why it's important for our goals to be phrased positively, as in solution focused, what we're working towards. So that's the P of P.O.S.E.E. That's dead straightforward. It's in when we write out that target, is it phrased positively in a solution focused way? The next part, ownership, is about ensuring that we are focusing on the bit that we can do. For a lot of things to happen, we do need external output, but it's absolutely crucial that we concentrate on the bit that we can control. In doing so, it means that we focus on things that we can influence, which avoids us becoming frustrated about things that are outside of our control, and that leads to us achieving despite those things more often than not. The targets and goals need to be specific, so the more detail we go into about exactly what we are going to do in order to achieve this target, the better, because that's going to help us to connect with it, to visualize it, and to be aware of what's happening. Then we need to think about size. This is common in a lot of target setting scenarios. Is what we're trying to do achievable in the time we've got with the resources we've got? Evidence is all about us future pacing, thinking ahead and imagining what evidence we might come across to tell us that we're having some success or that we've had some success. So this brings in a lot of the skills from esteeming strategy, and that's really going to help to do these 2 things side by side is really useful. And the final thing is the ecology check or environment check, which is basically a fail-safe in which we make sure that what we're aiming to achieve is appropriate, is going to have a positive impact on our lives, the lives of others around us, and the wider environment. There are 2 downloadable worksheets that you will be able to see in the coffee description. Firstly is this that you can write on. Secondly is this with lots of words on it. That's going to be very useful to people who like to do lots of detail. Personally, I'm a big chunk person. I don't tend to use a lot of words and a lot of detail to function in the way that I do things. So my example will be quite sparse on the detail, and the concepts will be quite big. So my positive goal, as we spoke about earlier, was about getting better at producing video tutorials. Okay, so you'll see there I've written improve my video presentation skills. It's a good job I wrote video presentation skills and not just presentation skills. So that word, it's improve my presentation skills. So that's very focused on moving forward and what I'm trying to do. That's positive. This is something that I don't feel 100% comfortable with, but I'm doing it anyway because this is a way of me continuing to work, and that's due to a situation that's out of my control, but the bit I can control, I'm controlling by doing this. If you notice, there's no mention of any of that worry or anxiety or how I'm personally feeling about my own work situation in that goal. It's just simply saying, right, improve these skills. So we'll move on to ownership. What are my parts? What can I do? Okay, so I've written down 3 things here that I can do. They are, I can practice. The more I practice, the better I'm going to get. I can seek advice from others who are good. I can find someone to model myself off. And I can focus on the editing bit of it, which is something I already have a bit of an understanding of just from studying IT. Okay, so we get it onto the specifics. Now you'll see the specifics say what, where, when, how. So most of what I'm going to do is online. I'm going to find tutorials. I'm going to access them online in any bits of time that I can find. I'm going to engage with as much as I can, take any tips on board about the presentation skills. I'm also going to learn about what I can do with iMovie, and that will help me to work within the bit I feel comfortable with. So now I need to think about realistic size. Is it a realistic size? So I've put on my sheet there, yes, it's open-ended. So hopefully, as this works, you'll see that the quality of the videos and the way I present myself should improve week on week. As this is something I'm learning about, as should the quality of the editing and the overall finish. So hopefully with time I'll prove that to be correct. In that I got slightly ahead of myself, and we've pretty much covered evidence. How will we know when we've achieved it? Well, we'll see the progression through the Wellbeing Wednesdays. I'm just going to write that down. Just in one word, progression. Will it change my environment? So I need to think about my ecology check. So is it going to have any negative effect on me personally? Well, no, it's learning something. All learning's good. Is it going to affect others, people around me? Well, it might take a little bit of time away from family. It might affect other paperwork that I could be doing. But actually it's more of a positive than a negative, because all it is just using time, which we all have lots of at the moment. And what effect is it going to have on the wider system? Well, not wanting to blow my own trumpet, but I'd hope that the more people that watch these videos, the better. And the better quality they are, the more likely people are to watch them. So actually I think the ecology check is that this is a good thing for me to be working on. So that's a straightforward example of how it goes through. I'm just going to finish off my sheet here. Okay, following this through, I'd just like to fill in some of the extra details where you might get to if you're somebody who likes to work in more detail and get into more focus. So looking at the other sheet, the text on here is quite small, so I'd advise you to look through. We've pretty much described everything that's at this point until we get down to size. So this is where, until we get around to specifics. At specifics and size, we start to think about integrating that esteeming strategy stuff into what we're doing. It's really, really useful to take these concepts and use them together. Think about how they relate to each other. That was why the worksheet I gave you last week had a few questions on it. Those questions relate to us thinking about the specifics of what we're achieving. I've had a lot of success with using those two methods together, both personally and with people that I've worked with. So it's really good to do that. When we start to think about the specifics and the size, this is the point where we might need to make some adjustments. If you do find that you need to make an adjustment to your goals, it's absolutely fine at any point to skip back to the beginning and go, right, well, let's readdress that. And it might be that you need to adjust the time scale. It might be that you need to put an interim in before you get to the end of it. So that, I think, pretty much wraps up P.O.S.E.E target setting. So download the resources, have a go, leave me comments, tell me what you thought about things, tell me if it was useful. What are you working on? This is a great activity to share with children as well. If there's any interest in using it with kids that are at school at the moment, please get in touch. I do have child-friendly versions of these resources with simpler language, for example. And on that note, I will see you next Wednesday. Stay safe.